Code it now. So for this first code it now activity, we want to write a loop to print the numbers from 1 to 10. This is a pretty easy activity, and there are two ways of going about this. We can use a while loop or we could use a for loop. And since we're just counting numbers, just incrementing a number, we're going to use a for loop because it'll make it much more compact, because the number we use to iterate for the for loop, we can also use to print out each value as we go, increasing that like index. So if we switch over to the JGrass window, let's create a new file with Control-N, hit enter to accept Java as the default, and let's copy some code from a different file like the count100s with Control-C, and then paste it into our untitled file. And let's delete the old class name and change it with something like CountTo10. CountTo10, and we want to make sure to change the class declaration name as well. Now let's delete the code inside the main method since we're no longer going to be using a while loop. And let's write a comment explaining what we're going to do. So print the numbers from 1 to 10. And are we doing on a new line for each? It's not specified, but we'll just leave it like this. And we'll use a new line anyways. So for int I, so typically I is used, it's just a common convention. I equals, and we want to start from 1. So from I equals 1, as long as I is less than or equal to 10, because we want to make sure to print out 10 as well. I plus plus, because we want to increase I. And then we add our curly braces. Make sure you indent. And now system.out.println, and we just want to print out I. And we have a semicolon. So that should be what we want. And let's just check that it's exactly what we want by saving with Control-S, accept the defaults by pressing enter. Then let's compile it with Control-B. So it compiled successfully with no errors. That's great. And now let's run with Control-R. And yeah, this is exactly what we wanted. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, each on their own line. Code it now. So for the second code it now activity, we want to write a loop to print the numbers 10 down to 0 and then print Blastoff. Okay, so again for this we're going to use a for loop just because it's going to end up being more compact, and it's very similar to the first problem we had to do, except we're just counting backwards instead of forward. And since we want to print Blastoff once we're done iterating over the loop, done going from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, we can include an if statement to check when we're at 0 and then just print out Blastoff when we are. And I think that's what we're going to go ahead and do. So now let's switch over to the JGrass window. Control-N to create a new file. Enter to select Java as the default language. And this file is going to be very similar to the first activity we had to do for this code it now, since it's going to be a for loop again. So let's just copy the code from this old one, Control-C, and then go back to our untitled file, Control-V to paste. Obviously we want a different name for this one, so let's see. It makes a lot of sense to call this one Blastoff, so let's do that. Or yeah, just as one word, Blastoff. And change the class declaration, Blastoff. And for this, we want a new comments, and we're going to keep the for loop since it's going to be a very similar for loop. So print the numbers from 10 to, do we want 0 included? Yes, we want 0 included, from 10 to 0. And then Blastoff. Okay. So now let's go through our for loop. So we have for, we have our parentheses. Now here we notice that we want to start from 10, so let's change this 1 to a 10. And right now it's saying I until I is less than or equal to 10, but we want to change this because we only want to go down to 1, and, well, I is greater than or equal to 1. So we're going to go from 10 to 9, which is still greater than or equal to 8, which is still greater than or equal to, so on and so forth until we hit 1. And instead of I++, we want a decrement. So it's I minus minus. Okay, and so this is fine. So we want to print out the value of I, which is what we want to do. We want to print 10 to 0. Oh, my mistake. See, I almost messed up there. Instead of 0, I put a 1 here. And we definitely want this to be a 0 because we're told that we want to print out 0 as well. So I did a quick fix there to fix that. And like I said earlier, we're just going to print out each value. But at the very end, once we know that we're at 0, so we can just check the value of I. So we can say if I equals 0, and we have to put in our curly braces, then we also want to print out Blastoff. All right, and semicolon. Simple enough. Okay, so now let's save our file with Control S, accept the default values. Okay, let's compile our file with Control B. All right, compiled successfully, that's great, and let's run it with Control R. And this looks awesome. Yeah, it's working exactly as we would expect, going from 10 all the way down to 0 and blast off once we get to 0. Okay,